So now it is my honor to introduce you to our keynote speaker this morning. Natosha Reid is an associate pastor at the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia, the pastoral home of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, and she also serves as the Associate General Counsel for Real Estate and Finance at Habitat for Humanity International. Natosha is passionate about providing opportunities to communities that have been historically disadvantaged. Please help me welcome to the stage Natosha Reid.
Good morning. What an honor to be here, all the way in Portland. And I don't know about all these people who said Portland was dreary and cold. Because I know when I left Atlanta, it was dreary and cold, and here we have this beautiful weather, so I'm just going to tell all these other people that tried to tell me otherwise, I don't know what you're talking about. Thank you all for this beautiful weather and welcoming me to your beautiful city. I'm grateful to be here. Thank you to Steve and his team, Melinda and Erica. Thanks to Ian and Beth and Nathan, who I got to chat with on the build site yesterday. The great work that Portland Habitat is doing truly inspires, but more importantly, transforms lives and hopefully is a catalyst to us all to create the beloved community. This morning, I want to spend a few minutes just thinking about this topic. We must persist. My plea to you this morning is that you would please try your best to lay aside your partisan politics, your presumptions about race, about gender, about socioeconomic differences, and just tune in for a few minutes and consider with me, how can we maximize this moment in history? How can we maximize this opportunity that all of us have the chance to share in to make this country all that it can be? We're living in a moment in history where we're faced with great opportunity and great challenge. We have great wealth and great poverty. Not just in the world or the nation, but right here in Portland and many of our cities across the country. We have gaps in access to quality education, lack of access to health care for some, great health care for others, right? We see the gaps all over. The 21st century housing market in the U.S. is in a deep affordability crisis, some of which Steve pointed out here in Portland. The cost of rental and home ownership are skyrocketing. Currently in this country, 19 million people, which is 17% of all American families, pay more than 50% of their income for housing. That's stark. That means they're having to make decisions about the very essential components of survival every day. Because if they're spending over 50% of their income on housing, how much is left over for food, for health care, for tending to the needs of their children? Going to school, even in free public education, costs. My husband complains all the time. He's like, are they going to ask us for more money, this field trip, that field trip, school supplies, all the things that we've got to do to support our families? 50% or more towards your housing costs clearly leaves you with very little to take care of many of the essential components of what we need for survival, let alone for thriving. So the trade-offs are very challenging for a lot of the families in our cities, in our country. So what do? How do we persist? How do we, when we look at the mammoth issues that our societies face, when we step outside of our own bubbles, right? Because it's one thing to go home and have the comfort of your home, as Steve says, to have house prices that actually benefit you. It's another thing when you step outside of your bubble and you realize there are others who are not as fortunate, who are not as privileged, who are struggling the way maybe your family struggled a generation ago, who are in the throes of just trying to get by. How do we make a difference when we look at all the isms that have impacted the national discourse and that have impacted the ways in which many people have been afforded the opportunity to live? Well, this morning, I just wanted to dare you to dream again. I loved walking around and realizing we're right on MLK Jr. Boulevard. We've got this beautiful bronze statue of Dr. King. We've heard these amazing words, and as Bernice and I have chatted about this, she said, you know, that the civil rights movement was one of the greatest revolutions in the history of this country, and it was done without a gun. It was done because of a man and others who believed that if we strive our best to create a beloved community, not a community that's full of utopian ideals, but it's a community where difference is appreciated, accepted, allowed. Tension exists, yes. But even in the midst of that tension, we're going to find a way out of here because we know that we can do better. So this morning, I want to dare you to dream again. Langston Hughes poetically penned in his poem, I Dream a World. He said, I dream a world where love will bless the earth and peace its paths adorn. I dream a world where all will know sweet freedom's way, where greed no longer saps the soul, nor avarice blights our day. I dream a world, he says, where black or white, whatever race you be, will share the bounties of the earth, and every man and woman is free. Of such I dream my world. Dreams and dreaming, in my opinion, are underrated. The type of dreaming that I'm talking about is not the dreaming when you're falling asleep and you lose track of time. It's the kind of dreaming that you do when you're in your most alert state, where you begin to imagine that things can be different, things can be better. I can work to create a world where all have access perhaps to decent and affordable housing, where communities are able to embrace those who are most in need, and the vulnerable populations are not given over to the avarice of greed and neglect. When we're constantly hearing bad news and overwhelming statistics and a public discourse that thrives on a culture of fear, we sometimes think that dreaming is a waste of time and energy. That great woman, Harriet Tubman, once said, every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars and to change the world. The American dream was popularized by historian James Truslow Adams in his 1931 book, Epic of America. And we all have heard various versions of the American dream. 2.5 kids, I don't know how that happens, a white fence, 2 cars in the driveway. And he says, Adams, that it has been a dream of being able to grow to fullest development as man and woman, unhampered by the barriers which had slowly been erected in the older civilizations. The American dream, the ethos that has undergirded and led to the creation of phenomenal documents like the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of these United States of America. And when the ideals of the American dream did not seem to be a reality for many of our citizens due to their race or their ethnicity and their station, many challenged the very notion and the ethos with which we claim to have built this great country. One such great dreamer we all know, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., said, I dream that is deeply rooted in the American dream. He said, I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed, that we hold these truths to be self-evident with no need of proof, that all men and women are created equal. His dream was a gift of imagination mixed with prophecy that far exceeded the political realism of the day. Dream again. Dream of a beloved community where we bring people together who ordinarily wouldn't sit at the same table, where we actually and intentionally seek out the hidden figures in our very midst, because we have some hard things to do. But I truly believe the resources, expertise, and the will exist. We just might have to stir it up a little bit. Why is it so hard to dream? As kids, we daydream, we think about things, and I bet even as adults you daydream as you sit at your desk, diligently doing the work that you do. But I think on a grand scale, sometimes it becomes so hard to dream, not just because we've tried and we failed, not just because it seems too overwhelming, but I posit to you this morning that many of us have stopped dreaming because we have lost our hope. So we're at a HopeBuilder breakfast this morning. How do we build up our hope again? How do we hope against hope? It's not easy to do, but I truly believe that it's possible. For hope requires us to fight through the dream killers, the things that try to keep you from dreaming, the hope in spite of circumstance and situation. Fight and work against doubt, against old scripts, against despair, against fear, against naysayers. And I bet you'll have a sunny day in the midst of the dreary week. Defy and fight against them through prayer, through your actions, through your mindset, your attitude, through partnerships, through collaborations. When you just seem to get a glimpse that there can be a change and a shift and a transformation. When you hear stories of Deasia and the story we will hear from Lizette, when you begin to hear that, oh my goodness, this little bit of hammering I did led to a transformed life. It led to a difference. It led to a young baby girl now growing up, going to college and pursuing her dream. There is yet more to do, and I hope and pray this morning that we begin to stir up one another's hope. This hope that I'm talking about is a hope that links up with faith. I'm not saying you have to believe in one faith or the other. I'm just asking you this morning to just try faith one more time, because you see, hope and faith are tag team partners. Hope triggers your faith, and faith undergirds your hope. And faith is not like belief, for belief can merely just believe, but faith has to have belief and work, belief and action. Dr. King said faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. Khalil Gibran said faith is a knowledge within the heart beyond the reach of proof. Mahatma Gandhi said that faith is not something to grasp, it is a state to grow into. I believe that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. That says to me that I don't need faith to do what I already see. We need faith to do the unseen. And when faith and hope connect together, oh, what a world we can dream and create. So this morning, I want to dare you to dream even the impossible, but I also want to encourage you to do the possible. For a strategy cannot just be built on hope alone, but it must embrace action in order to bring the dream to fruition. So we need new leadership. We need moral leaders. We need relational leaders. We need transformational leaders, not just transactional leaders, but leaders that speak to hearts and minds and encourage and stir up. We need the kind of leaders that we see out there on the ground, breaking ground that no one else considered building a home on, and creating a community that flourishes and supports families so that children can go to school and their graduation rate from high school can be as high as the families of the Portland Habitat that are 16% higher than the average graduation rate for all of Portland. Isn't that awesome? I know we have great mountains before us, but like Confucius says, the man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. We're not on a build site this morning, but I want to encourage you to join me in building this home. When I was recently at a women build, we got all these women together from various sectors and various industries and various income levels. We didn't know each other. We met people across different places, different ideas, different understandings, and they stuffed us in a room and had me caulking doors. And the site manager said, "That is not the way you do that." And I'm thinking, there's a way to caulk? I just thought you. So we got all of us together, nails breaking, hair all messed up. We got dirty to build this home for these two wonderful families. And during the course of that, it occurred to me, when we build homes, it's not just the homes and the physical, but I want you to build this home for me. The first thing we've got to do is to lay a foundation. We've got to do a better job of creating a foundation in our communities where trust exists and where relationships are built, for it's truly the relationships that build grace. In those relationships, we need authentic connection. Cast pretense aside for a change. Cast your partisan politics aside for a change so we can actually get some work done. Build a foundation that is solid, that is sure, and that is strong. That's what this breakfast begins and starts and stirs. Not only do we need a foundation, but we need the frame. And we need a frame that's expansive enough to include different people from different walks of life. Diversity breeds greatness. Then we need a roof. And let me slip this in. Diversity cannot be managed, it must be led. That's why we need dreamers. We need hope builders. We build a roof that now covers all. So we advocate for those who otherwise would be rendered invisible. Then we can begin to invite folks in. Build this house with me today. Just like on a build site, you're not going to run and take on a power tool, or you shouldn't, if you don't know how to use it. So you might have to hammer first. You might have to nail first. You might have to use a screwdriver. You might have to caulk first. But you've got to begin somewhere. As Dr. King says, you may not be able to be a tree, so be the bush. You may not be able to be a major highway, so be a trail. You may not be able to be the sun, so be a star, for it isn't the size that you win or fail. Be the best of whatever you are. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, hammer. Whatever you do, screw in the screws. Whatever you do, build foundation, frame, roofs. Invite people in who might not otherwise have been invited. Persist even though the mountains seem as great as Mount Hood. Hope again and dream again. For it is through the power of persistence and intentionality that we can truly dream and create a world where all can be embraced and encouraged to live fully. Thank you so much.